On May 4th, 1886, the Haymarket Affair occurred in Haymarket Square, Chicago, where protesters had been advocating on behalf of an 8-hour workday, and it had occurred just one day after a protest had broken out at the McCormick Harvest Machine Company's office on the west side of Chicago, where protesters were hurt and killed, along with many police officers who attended the event. The Haymarket rally had included speeches from August Spies, Albert Parsons, and Reverend Samuel Fielden, and had been fairly peaceful at that point, with a crowd between 600 and 3,000 people in total, and the crowd was so peaceful that then Chicago Mayor Carter Harrison III was able to walk through the crowd, listen to the speech, and continue on about his day without being interrupted. Around 10:30 p.m., Samuel Fielden had begun finishing up his speech when the police began arriving en masse to shut down the protest, when an unknown person threw a fragmentation bomb into the crowd towards the police officers, immediately killing one officer when the cops began opening fire into the crowd. This would eventually result in the death of 7 police officers and 8 of the protesters, 4 of which were later executed, and 70 people were injured, as well as hundreds more were arrested as a result. The trial was equally as controversial as, of the 8 defendants in total, only 2 were present at the time of the bombing, and of the 8, 6 of which were German-born or German descent, 2 of which, Fielden and Parsons, were of British descent. The trial had a number of other issues, including difficulty seating a fair jury, and in the end, the jury was selectively biased because it was down to a bailiff who selected jurors on the belief that they would convict the 8 defendants should they be placed on the jury, and the jury was not given instructions on manslaughter charges and instead directed to convict for murder. The trial included 118 witness interviews, of which 54 of them were from Chicago police officers, and upon the sentencing, one of the defendants had cried out that Captain Scheck of the Chicago police was just as corrupt and that he himself was an anarchist. The case went through a number of petitions. However, in the end, 4 of the defendants were eventually executed. However, when they were hanged, it did not immediately have the desired effect, and instead they slowly were strangled while dangling. As a result of the trial and convictions, thousands of people from all over the country had begun petitioning for the commutation of their sentences or potential pardons. However, the media at the time had called for the executions of all 8 and would refuse to run stories on anything other than their executions. And if you want to know more, follow below so you don't miss out.